we've just been talking about the Yorkshire Show and you having a stand there. So what's the stand for and what's kind of the aim of it?
Well, I think it's basically to highlight, our standards in this country, and, British farming. We've got some of the highest welfare standards in the world, and just trying to communicate that and encourage people to support British. I think whilst we're kind of a nation of animal lovers, I think most people would raise their hands up and say they're animal lovers. I think there's a lack of thinking about where food comes from, and by not thinking about where food comes from, you can kind of be supporting lower welfare standards. And I've said from when I first set up the business 14 years ago, I'd go to farmers markets and I'd have a video playing of my pigs and then a counter full of meat, and I'd have people coming up to me saying, "Oh, you're sick," and it's like, but they'd be carrying a bag full of Danish bacon.
Yeah.
Like, well, if you're not thinking about where your food comes from when trying to push these high welfare standards.
Yeah.
If you're not thinking about where your food comes from, then you can automatically be supporting lower welfare.
I think it's also fair to say that even if you do eat meat, you can still love animals and you can still care about animals.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why bridging the gap, we can help the consumer to make maybe better, more informed decisions based on education and information rather than just, picking things off the shelf and not understanding labels. And I think it's really important.
I think if we can get in there earlier as well with kids, because we've done sort of farm visits and then we've gone in and done butchery demos as well, and the kids, they want to know everything.
Yeah.
They're like, the first question is usually, how do you kill it? It's like, and they don't bat an eyelid, like they'll happily come on the farm.
Yeah.
And then we used to go and take half a pig into the school and butcher it, and like they were so interested, but it was the teachers that were in the corner sort of wincing.
Yeah.
Because they've been so removed from where food comes from. But I think we've really got a job to do on the education side of things.
Do you butcher your own meat or do you send it off to the...
So we send it off to an abattoir, so we don't have our own abattoir, but then it comes back to us as a whole carcass and we butcher it. Yeah.
I've never seen anything be like butchered.
It's hard. Well, I think once you've learned and but it's more like strenuous than you think, and obviously lifting up like a whole carcass and whatever.
I mean, I'd love to give it a go. I'm not going to lie. I think it'd be really interesting to kind of to appreciate, where food comes from and appreciate the kind of processes, because there is that kind of middle section. It's not just pigs, bacon. Mm-hmm. There is that kind of middle part that sometimes we don't often talk about.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. Where do you do the butchery? Have you got a butchery close by?
So Howden. So just as you come off the motorway. And then so we supply into sort of farm shops and butchers, and then we sort of do retail ready packs as well into shops. But then we have our own farm shop as well and cafe. So it's a real kind of farm to fork affair.
And people like to know that there is a person and a real farmer and a real story behind what they're eating. And I think now more than ever, it's becoming that way. But I guess one of the problems is there's potentially, and more so now, a lot of people who would maybe say that they can't afford to choose the highest kind of welfare and quality that's on offer, which I don't really know how we kind of get around that problem, because the high welfare isn't always the most. You've got a lot more, as you say, labour time here than if it was really intensive, as in some other countries as well. You can produce it more cheaply with the lower standards. So how we make higher standards accessible to genuinely everybody is quite a challenge, I think.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. I mean, like I said, we push and push for higher welfare standards here. And so it's a real slap in the face when government just let in imports that don't meet those minimum legal standards here.
Yeah.
But it's there's cheaper cuts from if you want to eat good high welfare meat, you can use the cheaper cuts. We keep saying about pork mince. Actually, everybody wants beef mince, but actually pork mince is great as well. It takes on flavour. You can use that, and it's a fraction of the price.
I don't even think I've ever considered or seen pork mince. But I tell you what, I do love like bolognese, and I do love shepherd's pie, and I do like tacos and things. So maybe that is something like to consider. I've never.
Yeah, we can probably just all be a bit more versatile on what we're cooking, and some cuts of meat would be, if you cook them in the wrong way, you think, oh well, I wouldn't, but that was cheap for a reason. Well, actually, did you slow cook it when it was meant to be slow cooked, or kind of vice versa? So I guess it's not just educating about where the food comes from and how it's produced. It's what to do with it when
getting
you
the
take
best
it home.
from each part of that animal,
Yeah.
and how best to cook, because cooking is exciting, isn't it? You can explore different ways, you can like try different ingredients, and I think we should be more open to that in every household.
Definitely.
I think so. Well, one of our biggest challenges is carcass balance, and everybody wants loin, they want pork chops, or they want back bacon, and it's using the rest of the carcass can be a real challenge for us sometimes. So yeah, I mean, when I first started, a leg of pork, people used to roast a leg of pork. Like nobody cooks roast pork anymore, or roast leg of pork rather. But it was funny over lockdown seeing people get back into that again, because usually all we sell is like bacon and sausages. That's our staple all day long, bacon and sausages. But then once we hit lockdown, people started to buy these roasting joints again, and it was really interesting seeing that shift. And we kind of hoped that it would stay that way, with people being really interested in where food comes from, and getting excited about cooking and stuff. But sadly it looks to have died a bit of a death.
It has dwindled a bit, I guess. We need to, now is like probably one of the biggest opportunities, like time-wise, that we're going to get, where we can capitalise on that shift. So I guess any work that we can do now, we're doing a tiny part of it, but as farmers, and anything you can do to get the message out there is very important.
So what were you going to ask?
Yeah,
about?
I was going to ask, in terms of the carcass you're looking for, and where does the bacon come from on a pig? As I say, that's one of the most popular things. And those popular cuts, why does that mean you kind of breed the type of pig that you do with the carcass how it is?
Yeah, so the loin is obviously down the side here, so that's where the bacon comes from, and your pork chops. So the breeds that we use is actually specific for, it has a longer loin as well, so that we get maximum, but also obviously it has more teats as well for the sow, so you can get more piglets on there. Like as I was saying before, we use breeds that will give us, probably more back fat than your standard sort of supermarket range would. But it's got the intramuscular fat as well. And we don't want massive amounts of fat, because we don't want too much waste. So it's quite a balance getting it right.
And what other bits on the pig you're looking for? Kind of shape or size or something specific when you're breeding them and rearing them? Is there anything else that you're looking for?
So we're looking for good muscles as well. So the boar line that we use is a big muscly breed, so that kind of counteracts the back fat from the sow, but gives good eye muscles on your pork chop, so you're getting a good meat to fat ratio.
And sow's a female pig. And boar's a male. Learning every day. I saw a thing the other day. It was like a picture of kind of the different kind of products you can get from a pig. So like, I didn't realise pancetta was from underneath, for instance, and your bacon's from the side, and then you can use other parts of the animal for maybe like dog food or whatever. You're not wasting any part of that animal, which I think is really, really important.
Ham comes from here as well.
Okay.
And
where do your sausages come from? All parts of it?
Usually the shoulder, but any trimmings really is sausages. And then we've also started making guanciale, which is from the cheek.
What's that? Sorry.
It's like cheek bacon. It's really nice. It's a bit like pancetta, but the cheeks are a bit sweet, like it's sweet
It's
meat.
a bit of a speciality cheek, isn't it, on the pig?
Ooh. Well, as well as we do hog roasts as well, and my son's thing is that he always wants the cheek saving for him. Whenever I do one, it's like, save me the cheek.
When you're doing a hog roast, how long do you actually have to cook the whole pig for?
It depends on the size, and it depends if I want to get up early or not. So I can do it low and slow. If I want to put it up on the night, then I'll just cook it a bit longer. And so anything from 8 hours to 14 hours. So yeah, I didn't fancy getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I thought, yeah, we'll put it on lower and slower. Yeah.
I'm walking. These ones aren't shy, are they?
No, and
Not
they've
like
probably
the
got bigger teeth, Lizzie.
Well, I just felt that on my tour. So where are we, Anna?
We're down at Kilpin at our butchery unit. So we've seen the farm. So once they leave there, they go to the abattoir. Some of the pigs go out as full carcasses direct to other wholesalers that we supply, but then about half of them come back here for us to process, where we do all cuts of pork, we dry cure our own bacon, gammon, smoke our own bacon, and then we do sausages and burgers and bits of everything really to make sure we get that carcass balance that we were talking about.
It does smell like smoked bacon.
And what sort of other outlets are you going to with the actual kind of jointed up stuff and stuff ready to eat almost?
So supplying to farm shops, butchers, because keep going back to this carcass balancing, not many butchers can balance that entire carcass. You know, back in the day, most butchers would have probably bought a few carcasses, and I don't think boxed meat was such a thing back in the day. I think that it was on the individual butcher shop to balance that carcass, whereas now there's a lot of boxed product goes out. Because yeah, loins, as we said, a lot. You know, loins are the thing. People want pork chops and they want back bacon, but you know, not so many people buy sort of a shoulder of pork or leg like they used to. So yeah, it's making sure that the butchers that we supply can get all of their needs from us, because we've said from the beginning, we don't want someone to buy a pig from us, but then their customers have to get something else, but then think that that's our product as well. We want it all consistent, all traceable back to us.
Yeah, and then that reduces the wastage as well. If everything's utilised, you're not stuck with those bits at the less utilised bits at the end as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think sausage is the sort of the main thing. You know, that's where we manage to balance our carcasses with the sausages and burgers. And butchers' shops actually buy what we call trim from us as well, so that they can make their own sausages and pies and sausage rolls and all sorts of stuff.
So do we need to be booted or anything up?
There's no production going on now. The guys have finished this. They start early. They start at sort of 5 o'clock in the morning, so they've got done today. Monday is a quieter day because our pigs come in on a Tuesday, first thing in the morning, so our week sort of starts, I say, on a Tuesday when those fresh pigs come in, and that's, Tuesday and Wednesday are pretty full on. So.
And how many pigs are you sending off every week?
So we've got 150 gone in today. It goes up and down. We mentioned about the backlog earlier, so yeah, a few weeks ago it was up sort of 190, 200. We try, it depends on demand very much. So it's usually sort of demand led, but then because of the backlog, I've had to, proactively try and shift extra pigs.
Is demand for pork seasonal, or at what times of year are people buying more or buying less?
It can be. I mean, Christmas is always absolutely crazy.
Pigs in blankets.
Pigs in blankets, yeah, streaky bacon. And people have sort of shifted a bit from turkey as well to, a lot of people cook pork now for the Christmas dinner, and then hams as well. We do bone-in hams at Christmas. And then summer as well, we supply to a lot of like hot dog stands, that go to festivals and shows and stuff. And then hog roast, we do a lot of supply to hog roast companies as well as doing hog roast ourselves. So, yeah.
Busy.
Yeah. So it does stay fair, even though there's peaks and troughs. It can be consistent. You're not, you're never quiet, basically.
Yeah, it's always there's always plenty to do. That's for sure. Yeah, butchered in here. This is the bacon curing room. So we'll see. Wow. So all the bacon and hams hang in there. It's all dry cured.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, we've got rice.
All right.
And so how long will it be curing for like this?
So cured for 7 days, then we rinse it, and then we hang it for 3-4 days. Well, longer the better, really.
Yeah.
I think it must be such a skill to butcher and get every single piece kind of
how it should be,
like that. Yeah.
It's a massive skill, but they make it look really easy. And then we do various other bits like I said before, guanciale and pancetta and fact, we just tried doing a beetroot bacon and a coffee bacon just a couple of weeks ago, which was interesting.
I guess you've got
Coffee
to try out
bacon.
these things, haven't you? Yeah, and like experiment, because people like different flavours these days. You know, just
They do. I just wish it had come from a different part of the pig, because I mean we sell back bacon and the loin all day long, but that's a product that's quite easy to get innovative with.
Yeah.
Whereas we could do to try something different with the shoulder or with the leg.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a few years ago we came up with doing pulled ham. You know, like people do pulled pork.
Yeah.
I thought, well, why don't we do that with ham? And that went off really well.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
yeah.
Well, it's amazing to see it kind of in process, isn't it?
Definitely. Although I don't think I could work in here because it's freezing. I get too cold. Well, amazing.
Yeah,
Great to see.
When we first started, in fact, we don't have it anywhere. When we first started, we started in a shipping container, and half of it was a fridge, half of it was processing, and then we kind of moved into here, and it's kind of a bit of Lego, just adding on bits as we've grown. So we process, what do we do, about 60 a week at the moment. So pigs come into here. It's empty at the moment, obviously. So they come into here, into the rail system, all hanging there, and then through into processing. But because just recently you'll have heard Traves at Escrick closed down. We've used them for 14 years, and they used to do all our logistics for us as well. So they deliver to the depots that we supply, and we've not been able to find another abattoir that does that. So we've had to take that in-house, which has meant that we've had to bring all the carcasses back here as well. So we've just bought that as well, literally just to store carcasses on a Tuesday whilst I run them here, there and everywhere. So yeah, it's
that's quite an important point, because they're like a fairly small abattoir.
Yeah.
And that's happening more and more, isn't it? That those smaller outlets where people such as yourselves would use just can't afford to keep going, or all the kind of red tape is just too hard to deal with, or you can't get the staff. So then it is a case of where do you go?
Yeah.
Because does it mean you're travelling further afield, or then do you have to go into a more kind of commercial setup where they're much bigger?
Yeah.
So there's gaps being left all the time by these smaller abattoirs, which just fit really well with what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's gaps being left.
There really is. I mean, like I said, they used to do all the logistics for me, and I didn't realise how good I had it until they closed down, and that it's added on a good 24 hours onto my working week. And yeah, I didn't realise how spoiled I've been, and there's just nobody to plug that gap.
Yeah.
We've had to go, so they're about 10-15 miles away from the farm, Traves were. Now we've had to go over to Widnes, which is like an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it's not great. All these small abattoirs just seem to be closing down, but I think there's no sort of give and take in the law and the standards and that DEFRA put on to abattoirs. It's, you know, those small guys have got to hit all those same standards that the big guys have, and they just can't cover those costs. They can't spread that across their production, and yeah, it's just been getting more and more difficult for the little guys to carry on.
Definitely, and I think that's the same a bit with farming as well. Unless you're in a complete niche and it's a small holding and maybe it's almost more of a hobby, it's not your sole source of income, you can manage that. But a lot of farms really have to work on the economies of scale, and it ends up being big farms, which if any land comes up, it's the big farmers. It's not your normal scale who can afford to compete, really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of across the board, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having us today.
Yeah, it's
It's
been
all right.
fantastic.
It's been really interesting.
I mean, I know we often say, is it Lizzie learning from me about the farming? But I've definitely learned a lot about pigs today. They are not something I know much about at all, so it's been fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. No worries.
So we've had a fantastic trip around the farm, seeing the pigs. We've been to the butchery as well, and I think it's just been a great day all round.
It has. I have learned so much. I think you have as well.
Yeah, exactly. Pigs new to me.
And yeah, we're here now at Anna's Happy Kitchen, and we're going to order ourselves something nice to eat. I think I'm going to go for the fry up because bacon, sausages, black pudding.
Can't beat it. Yeah, so we're gonna test what we've seen.
Yeah, so thanks again to Anna. It's been fantastic. And as always, you can like and subscribe.